What are some societal consequences of identifying as something other than cisgender, which we still see today?
There are tons of societal consequences for being something other than normal, and the gender identity spectrum is absolutely the same as any other identity spectrum. Anyone who identifies as something other than cisgender has in the past and still does today faced severe consequences for being open about their gender identity. Transsexual people and transgender people face discrimination in housing, in the legal system, they face discrimination in the job market, they face discrimination in their schools and in their social circles, and in their own families. Transgender people are at a much higher risk for being homeless, for prostitution because it's the only way that they can make ends meet because they can't get different jobs. They are at a much higher risk for depression and suicide because of the discrimination that they face day to day and the fear that they face day to day. Because to be completely honest, being transgender can often be fatal in our society. Over 101 people this year alone have been killed throughout the world simply because they identified as something other than cisgender. A couple in Indianapolis was killed because the female member of this heterosexual couple was born male. Earlier this year, a 21-year-old woman in Washington, D.C. was stabbed to death with a friend of hers when she was walking down the street in front of a transgender support service office. This 21-year-old woman, who went by the name of Nana Boo, died in the street in front of onlookers while a man stabbed her to death, screaming homosexual slurs and transgender slurs at her. This is something that people face every day. Transgender people who walk down the street do it with the knowledge that it may be the last day they have alive.
Are there any laws protecting individuals who identify as transgender?
Historically, laws have actually been passed to vilify transgender individuals. This still goes on today in several countries, including Iraq, where transgendered individuals are summarily executed. However, in a lot of societies today, we're seeing new laws being passed, new ordinances being passed every day that protect transgender individuals from this discrimination that they have to face. In Maine in 2005, the legislature successfully passed and voters successfully defended a law which added actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity to the Non-Discrimination Act in this state. In October of this year, President Barack Obama finally succeeded, after 11 years in front of the Congress and the Senate, in getting passed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. hate crimes bill. This bill adds actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity to the already existing hate crime laws in the federal government. It's amazing that this bill was passed because I'm sorry to say that many states don't have sexual orientation or gender identity in their hate crimes bills. But now, to discriminate against someone based on their sexual orientation or gender identity, whether it's their actual identity or just the way that they present themselves or the way you interpret their presentation, is now a federal crime.
What do you feel that we, as a society, can do to increase social acceptance of individuals who identify as transgender?
There's a ton that we can do as a society and as individuals to increase social and legal acceptance of transgender individuals in our communities. We are beginning to see legal changes, such as the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. hate crime bill, that are going to help our government have a better role in increasing social acceptance and awareness of transgender individuals, which is a great first step. We need to educate people that it's not harmful to be transgender, that any harm that comes from being transgender is not from identifying in that way, but from society's refusal to accept it as a valid identity. But the biggest issue is going to be within society, within our day-to-day interactions with transgender people. We need to educate people who are currently unaware of what transgender means, that these people exist, they're human beings, same as everyone else, and they deserve the same rights and benefits and respect that everyone else gets. This means that, don't fire people for being transgender, don't evict them, don't kick your kids out of your homes. It means don't bully students in grade school who don't match the societally given gender roles.
So, what are your hopes for the future?
My hopes for the future are, I think, less hopes and more simply an understanding of what will happen. We've seen time and again, especially in this country, civil rights movements that have taken a class of oppressed minorities and have slowly, but have done so to take this class of individuals and move them not into the majority, but closer and closer to equal. And it's happening with the queer movement, and it's going to happen with transgender people as well. We're going to see the creation of laws that make it specifically illegal to fire someone because they're trans. We're going to see specific laws that make it specifically illegal to evict someone because they're trans. We're going to see laws around the world that make it illegal to kill someone or to assault someone because they're trans. We're going to see parents beginning to accept that regardless of how they were brought up or how they feel or think, the child that's standing before them, dressed in a skirt and wearing makeup and telling them, "Mom, Dad," or "Mom, Mom," "Dad, Dad, I'm a girl," is the same child that they played catch with as their son. It's the same person. And I think we're going to begin to see more and more families and individuals beginning to accept transgender people as people. It's going to be a long road, it's going to be a hard road, and it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. And I can't wait for that day. Danny's awesome.